I'm with Paushali Lass from Germany, and we're here at a book launch, Tasting Faith by Paushali Lass with Anne Sampson. Paushali, what is the book about?
Well, the book is about many things, exploring the heritage of the Jews of India, but it also explores topics like combating modern-day anti-Semitism through sharing of stories, because we highlight the story of the Jews of India, and what we want to bring out is amplify the voices of the diverse Jewish communities that exist around the world, debunking the myth that the anti-Israel people like to say is that Israel is European colonial outpost. So it revolves around these main themes, and it's also partly recipe book because we have a collection of really nice family preserved recipes.
Why India?
Well, because I'm originally from India, and I've always been very curious about the Jewish community of India. You know, there are many Jewish communities from India. So my curiosity took me to interviewing Anne Sampson, who is of Indian Jewish origin, who lives in Toronto, Canada for many years. So that's, I started this research project about 5 years ago. And yes, because I'm originally from India, so it resonates with me.
How easy was it practically putting a book together with someone else who lives in Canada?
Yeah, that's a good question. A large part of the interviewing process happened during Corona times, so of course Zoom played a big role. Yes, so I'm very thankful for online possibilities of meeting someone, even when we don't live in the same country. It was okay. It was okay.
How long did it actually take you to write the book?
So the actual writing really didn't take much time. It was mainly the research project, which took a bit longer. So about, I would say, altogether 3 or 4 years. But I work on several different projects, so I've been kind of like postponing the writing. But since the 7th of October, I really felt like this needs to come out. This story needs to be shared because we are really sharing also perspectives on how to fight modern-day anti-Semitism through this story.
Are there many Jews in India? You never really think of India having Jews there.
Exactly. Thank you for asking me the question, because that is precisely why we want to bring this book out. I want to show how multifaceted and diverse country India is, and people tend to think of India as associated with only Hinduism or cows or yoga and whatnot, and like billions of people. But India had a very strong contribution from the Jews. The Jews, even though smaller in number, they contributed significantly to the cultural landscape, especially of India. So right now, there are not many Jews left in India, maybe about 5,000, if I'm not mistaken. Most have moved to Israel and some in North America or England, but yeah, they had a significant contribution.
Are there synagogues in India, and do many of them dress more orthodox?
Like, what do you mean by orthodox?
Maybe like black, or so you could actually identify them actually as a Jew?
No. So that's interesting because Jews in India look exactly like any Indian person, but of course the women would usually cover their head when you walk into a synagogue, and the men would have a kippah on. And yes, to go back to your question about are there synagogues, there are actually beautiful synagogues, some of the most beautiful synagogues I've ever been to, especially in Calcutta and Mumbai.
Now, you talk about the importance of combating anti-Semitism. Is that very timely now, after October the 7th and the rise of anti-Semitic attacks?
Exactly, and that's why there was this pressing need to bring out the book now, because what we do through this book is really challenge the biases about certain Jewish communities, and presenting Israel always as if it were a colonial outpost, and that as if Israel resulted as a result of only the Holocaust, which is just not true, because the Jews of India, their story really proves that no, Israel is the ancestral homeland of all Jews, and they have over 3,000 years of connection to this land, the land of Israel. So this is very important to share this story, and not let it be erased,
Have many Jews in India made Aliyah to Israel?
Yes, most of them, yes.
Yeah. What number would you have here now?
Well, as I understand, and I think the book also talks about it, and Samson had mentioned about 85,000, if I'm not mistaken. And they are mostly present in Dimona, which is quite in the south, in Beersheba and Ashdod. These are typically like quite heavy Indian Jewish populations there.
I imagine they bring a bit of the culture of India to Israel.
Absolutely, and food is one of the most important things, you know. So through food, they really preserve the culture, because in India, if you think of India, Indian food is famous all over the world, and what they bring is like following the kashrut principles, the biblical laws of pure eating, and they just adapt it to Indian spices, and that's what they brought back to Israel, and several other influences have come in to produce a new cuisine. But the Indian Jews really try to preserve their culture through food. Food is one of the biggest ways, actually. Yeah.
And you're preserving that in some ways by having some recipes in the book as well. What sort of recipes do you have in the book?
They're actually all Indian food recipes, but following the biblical principles of kashrut. So, like not mixing dairy and meat. And we also have recipes like what Jews would typically eat in India for Hanukkah, or even the Jews of India all over the world, no matter where they live, that they eat such kind of food, you know, for Hanukkah or for Passover and Yom Kippur. There's a special type of like multi-layered bread that they have, which is very intensive. And so we have the recipes of those too.
Who is your book aimed at?
I would say it's aimed at both Jews and non-Jews. Jews, because, you know, if the Jewish people themselves in the West especially, they need to know more about the diverse Jewish communities that exist, especially the Mizrahi Jews, the Jews of East, you know, because if we don't have Jews knowing their communities, how do we expect non-Jews to know more about their communities? So it's aimed at Jews, but also to non-Jews and Indians as well, so that they become aware that there was this community which was really a light unto the nations, because they contributed so much to the well-being and welfare of their host nation, India.
Now, the book is with Anne Sampson. What is a little bit of her story?
Yeah, so she is 83 years old now. She was born in Mumbai in India, which was previously called Bombay. She's of Bene Israel and Baghdadi Jewish background, so Yemenite Jewish, or from her mother's side of the family. And then what's unique about her life in India, and that's pretty much the story of most Jews, is that they never faced any anti-Semitism in India. So Jewish life really thrived in India. And then she moved to Canada for work with her family. And that's where they actually faced a lot of challenges of being accepted as equals within the Jewish community, within the North American Jewish community, so which was a real struggle for them, you know. So since then, she worked very hard through education and advocacy, raising awareness for Indian Jews. Look, there exists this group of Jews in India. So she's a really resilient, powerful lady, and for years she's been fighting for equality of the Indian Jews and Jews from the Middle East to get equal footing, you know, in the overall Jewish community.
Is this your first book?
No, this is my second book. So the first book was very different. It was on parenting, because I also have 5 children. So it was on raising kids when they're young. And now it's a passion project, because I'm really passionate about sharing the story of diverse Jewish communities.
Now you have the book launch tonight. Who have you got speaking tonight?
Oh, we have some very interesting and inspiring speakers. So we have the outgoing Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nahum, speaking. I'm very glad that she's coming because her name carries this word Nahum, as you hear, and it's like her husband's family actually are the owners of the famous Nahum's Bakery in Calcutta, or Kolkata in India. That's the city of my birth, and I've literally grown up. It's something like a legacy in Calcutta. So I'm really very happy that she's coming to speak with such a name, Nahum, attached to her name. And then we have Rabbi Doron Perez, who's a very inspiring man, whose son is actually who was murdered on the 7th of October by Hamas terrorists, and whose body is still being held in Gaza. So he's called Daniel Perez. So Daniel's father, Rabbi Doron Perez, is also going to speak. And then we have Professor Shalva Vail, and she is an expert on the Jews of India. She's a researcher at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And then we also have a passionate advocate for the Bene Israel community of Jews, Ariella Daniels. She lives in Jerusalem. And we have Sarah Sassoon, who's Iraqi Jewish lady, who's a educator and poet and writer. So she's going to speak about the connection of the Iraqi Jews and Indian Jews.
What is your prayer for the book?
My prayer is that it raises awareness that the Jewish people, Israel is really diverse, but they have a collective Jewish identity, and that their homeland is Zion, Israel. So the land of Israel is the home of all the Jewish people. And anybody who tries to disconnect them to the land of Israel is just in the wrong, and this message needs to go out.
And how can people get a hold of your book? Are they on Amazon or a website?
Yes, it is available on Amazon in most Amazon marketplaces globally.
Well, Paushali, thank you very much for sharing today.
Thank you so much.